Hello everybody, my name is Kyle Lee, aka Kilo Loco from kiloloco.com, and today we're going to be going over core data, how to save to the device. The tools we're going to be using today are Xcode 9 Beta 2, Swift 4. You don't need those, you could be using Xcode 8 and even before that, and Swift 3 and even before that, but yeah, and then obviously core data. The skill level I set to intermediate. This is definitely a intermediate subject. You don't want to get into this when you're brand new, I guess. It's not that hard to follow along, but when you start working with core data, things become a lot more complex. So all you really need to know to follow along with this tutorial is just know how to create and use data models, and then understand how static methods work. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm going to be going over just about everything, and if you feel like following along, then go ahead and do that. But don't say I didn't warn you. Nah. All right. So let's go ahead and get into a new Xcode project, right? So single view application. You obviously want to make sure the use core data is on, and then we're just going to call this saving data, baby. All right. If you already have a project, then you can go ahead and just recreate a new project and then copy out all the stuff that we're going to be doing and paste it into your project. Should work. All right, we're going to put this in KL Learning because that's where I learn ya. All right, and then you'll notice that when you do create a project with the core data model, it does give you one of these bad boys right here. So yeah. All right, and you'll also know that there's a core data stack in your app delegate. Bam, all right here. It's only like two methods right here, or one run property, one method. That's all you need now. It's pretty simple. All right, so for the UI for this, I'm just going to do basic UI so that you guys can see how you would populate a table view with this. I think that should suffice. I think showing UI is definitely important on this type of thing, just so that you can see how to extract the data. If you're at intermediate level, you should already know how to do that, but just in case. All right, bar, button, item. We can throw that bad boy up there, make it a sexy little add button. Oh yeah, that's how we do it. And then table view. Throw this table view in there. Bam, just like that. Bam. Drag it all around, all crazy like. Just like that. And then you pin it. That's all we need to do for that. I'm gonna control drag, get that data source connected, and then we need to connect up our view controller real quick. Don't need the memory warning, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that. We'll add our outlet, which is going to be the table view outlet. So at IB outlet, weak var table view, UI table view, and then we're also going to need the actions connected to that, right? So at IB action, func on plus tapped, whatever you want to call it. We got that going for us. We're also going to set up our extensions while we're here. Extension. And we're going to extend our view controller. And we're just going to put our UI table view data source. Table view data source methods in here, which are number of sections in row, return 1. And then we're actually going to be working with, for the objects that I'm going to demonstrate, they're going to be person objects, so people. So let's go ahead and add a variable called people. Var people is equal to an empty, we'll just call it a string for right now, just so that it has something of value right there, and we can create a empty array. And then when we do this, so we'll do number of rows, we'll do return people.count. And then for the cell for row at index path, we'll do let cell equal UI table view cell. We'll make it so that it has the details, or what do they call it? Subtitle, I mean. And then we're not going to be doing so much data that we need a reuse identifier, so we'll just leave it as nil. Cell dot text label dot text is equal to that. Cell dot details text label dot text is equal to that, and we'll return cell. Lastly, all we need to do is connect everything up and we'll be just about good to go. So table view missed, swing and a miss. All right, and there, and that's all we're gonna do for our UI. Should be all good. All right, so going back to our app delegate, you'll see that that we have the stack in here. Core data saving support and core data stack right here. Okay, so I usually don't like to have this method and this property in the app delegate. It just makes it kind of messy when you're trying to access them. So let's go ahead and put that in its own little thing. We'll call it a persistence service. Right? Persistence service. All right. And then we're obviously going to need to import core data, right? Ooh, core ML, right? Let's get into that. Maybe one of these days, guys. I haven't heard any requests, surprisingly. Okay, so we have a class. We're going to make it a class. And we're going to call it persistence service, right? And all we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our app delegate. We're going to grab from the core stack all the way down. Make sure that we don't get the closing brace for the app delegate, but everything else we do want. And we're just going to paste this right into here. So it's not necessarily like copy and pasting from stuff that you don't really know about. I'm not going to go into all of how this stuff works. I mean, it has, very detailed documentation in here for you to read. So go ahead and read that if you want to really understand how things are working and what the other few capabilities that it talks about. But yeah, we really just need to copy and paste this from the boilerplate. Okay, so one thing that you also need to notice is that if you're copying this out of a new project and you're putting it into a current project or old project, make sure that you update the NS persistent container name to your project's name, right? So make sure that they're the same. That'll just save you a whole lot of headaches. All right. Other than that, you should be good to go. One last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add, we're going to make these static so that we can access them very easily. We're going to make it so that you can't initialize the persistence service class. So we'll do private init, right? And then we're gonna also make another property called static. This will be also a variable, and this is just gonna get our context, so we'll call it context. And this will be of type NS managed object context. And we're gonna return this bad boy down here. So this is where this is kind of like, think of it as like the container for everything that you plan on saving. So you have to put all the stuff that you plan on saving into a context, into your little container, right? Now, when you have this container and all the stuff in it, when you're ready to save, you say, this is the container and everything in it, that's what I want to save. And then that's when you save context, right? And then that's when you save it. I don't know why dumping is saving, but that's the way that I explain it. Okay, so now that we got all that out the way, we can get going. Now for the plus button, we're just going to do this with an alert action. So let's go ahead and do that. Let alert controller, I'm sorry, I said alert action. UI alert controller, initialize this. Title will be add person. Make it look nice. Message we'll leave nil. Type alert, right? We're gonna have two fields that we want to enter into, so that those are gonna be two text fields. So we'll add those. Alert.text fields, or nope, add text fields. Sorry. We're gonna do enter text field. So this will add a text field, and I can reference the text field that I'm adding with this keyword text field or whatever I wanted to call it. Text field, we're just going to say dot placeholder is equal to name. That's where you put your name, right? And then we'll add another one, alert dot add text field, again, enter, again, text field, again, again, right? So we'll do the same thing, text field dot placeholder, and then so a person has a name and we'll say an age, right? So we'll just do age, and that's what we'll do. So is equal to age, and then since we're entering in a number, what we'll do is we'll say text field dot keyboard type is equal to dot number pad. Right, so that's going to add two text fields. When you try to access this one, the text field will be a number pad instead of being able to type in letters, so that we don't have any problems. Okay, so now what we have to do is have an action inside of our alert controller. So we'll do let action equal UI alert action. We'll just say post, right? Whatever you want to say, whatever you want the action to be called. Style is just going to be default. And then for the completion, we don't need to access this action button for what we're going to do in here. So let's go ahead and go down here, or let me explain why I just said that. So we're not going to access this action, the action that we're making, which is what would be right here. So I just put an underscore because I'm not going to use it. Okay, so now whenever you press this action button, what's supposed to happen? Well, I want to have access to the name, and I want to have access to the age. So let's get access to those. So let name equal alert. We're accessing our alert dot text fields, right? Dot first. The first one that we put in, this one, and it's the name, and we'll say the text, right? And we'll actually unwrap all this because Kyle doesn't care right now. You're going to definitely want to make sure that you check that, make sure that when you're entering in stuff that it's there, and you want to do your optional binding, but you should know about that. So we're not going to go into that. Anyway, age, we're going to do the exact same thing. Dot text fields dot last dot text. All right, print name, print age. All right, now all we have to do is add that alert dot add action, right? And we're gonna say the action that we specified up here, right there, and then present. If you know how to spell, present that alert. Animated, always, baby. We like to look sexy. Alrighty. So I think we have everything connected, all of our UI in place. Let's go ahead and run this, make sure that everything's working as we would expect. We already have an error, and that's because I didn't update this to the persistent service. So let's go ahead and change that real quick. And since it is a static method, it will be able to save context just like that. You don't have to initialize this. It's not an instance method. All right, let's get into it. Shall we test that UI? Don't worry, we're going to get into the core data stuff right now. We're going to get into it. I didn't forget about the main part. Just, Kyle got to go through some of these some of these things. Alright, it finally worked. And I just realized that I was typing all small and stuff. So, in case you were wondering, this is what we're doing. Bam, 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 bam. Alright, go ahead and pause the video if you didn't get to capture all that down. If not, then let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, you know what? Did I print them? Yes, I did. Okay, so when I do this, I'm going to just say Kyle, age 25. We post. Bam, Kyle 25. Worked as expected. Alright, so let's get into it. So now we need to do our core data stuff, right? And I said that we're going to make a person. We're going to go down to this XC data model ID. Bam, right there. Add identity. Bam, right there. Going to rename it. Bam, right there. We're going to call it person. Alright. And then for the attributes, these are like the properties of a class, right? So just think of them just like that. So we're going to do add. Like I said, we're going to have a name. Got to specify the type. So name of type string, right? Exactly. Age, right? Of type int, right? No, not int. Int 16. Now, you know, our number is going to be extremely low, so we're just going to go with the lowest integer. Notice that there's not anything else in here that would be best suitable for it. You know, you don't really want your age to be a double. You don't want it to be a decimal. We'll just go with integer 16. It's still an integer, right? All right, we're all done with that. That's all we really needed to do to make this simple class. Now, what you have to do is you have to go back over here. This is the very important part. For some reason, I have this problem. You may not have this problem. You can go ahead and test it without it. But what I actually have to do is I have to go to the person. I have to go to the side pane. I have to go over here to where it says code gen, right? It says class definition. Well, that'd be great if it did it right, but it doesn't. So we're going to go to manual/none. Okay. Seems to work whenever you do manual/none. It gives you just about the same exact thing. And unless you're really working with really complex data models, then you should be good to go. If you are working with really complex data models, you could just write this up yourself because you already know how to do it. So that's fine. So code gen, make sure it's manual/none. Now what we're going to do is go back, make sure this is still highlighted. Nope, you don't want to edit it. Just make sure it's highlighted. Editor. We're going to create NS manage object subclass. So make sure that this is the project that you want it in and the entity that you want it in. If you had multiple entities that you wanted to go through, person, you know, company, location, all that other stuff that you want to save, and you want to keep them as core data objects, then they would all list right here. You could select or deselect whichever ones that you want to make a subclass for this. So we're going to do next. And for another thing that happens kind of weird is it puts it outside of the actual object or outside of the actual project. So I'm going to go ahead and click one into here, make sure that it is with the rest of my files, and I'm going to go ahead and hit create. So if you didn't put it in, then it'd be out here and it's kind of weird and things start acting up. So that's why I put it in. Now I'm just going to drag it in to where everything else is at. Looks good. See, looks like kind of like a normal class. I mean, you got the core data right there. You have it bridging to Objective-C. That's a little bit weird, right? But you don't really need to worry about that. It's just that core data is written in Objective-C, and it just needs to access Objective-C like properties and stuff like that. And then you can see that you have your two properties right here, the name and the age. Age int 16, so you just gotta work with it just like it's an int, but you have to convert it to int 16 instead of just an int. Anyways, getting back to it now that we have our object, we can instantiate it, right? So let person equal person, and we're going to initialize this with just an NS manage object context, right? And the great thing about what we did earlier about making things static is that we can just pass them very easily. Persistent service, right? Dot context. Bam, right there. Works just like that. Oh yeah. Okay, so Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we set the properties for this person object, make sure that it has valid properties in it. So we're going to say person dot name is equal to, guess what, name. Bam, very simple, very easy. Person dot age is equal to, you guessed it, int 16. You probably didn't guess it, just kidding, you did, I'm sure. All right, int 16, so whatever the age is, remember that it is a string. We're just going to convert that to int 16. What happened? Oh, we have to force unwrap this. We're going to say, yes, we know for a fact that age is going to be a number and that it's not a letter. You definitely want to check for these types of things, but Kyle doesn't do that in his tutorials. So let's continue. Bam. So now that we have this person, and since we're creating it with a context, it's already made it inside of our context. Isn't that great? It's super great. Okay, so now what we have to do is we actually have to save the context. So we have our container, the context, right? We made, boop, a little person object inside this container, right? Now we gotta drop it and save it. So still don't know why dumping or dropping is saving in my brain, but that's how I choose to explain it. So all we're gonna do is call this static function called save context, and we're going to save the context. Very simple, very easy. So persistent service dot save context. Bam. Isn't that amazing? Okay. Lastly, what we want to do is we want to change the people to be of type person, right? Because now we actually have the object that we want the people array to be made up of. So we're going to scroll down. We're going to access the people array, people. Going to insert index path dot row. Make sure we get the right one. And then we're going to say name, right? So now the big text will be equal to that person's name, whoever is supposed to be at that row. For the details, we're going to put the age, but remember that it's an int 16, right? So what we'll do is we'll say string, and then we'll put in our people, index path dot row dot age. So we get the age property from the person object that's there, and we just use this string to convert it into a string. Should be all good. Let's see. It's not clearing up. Wake up and work. Okay, looks like it's working. There we go. So now whenever we have a person in this array, which we're going to add, it will actually populate it with the name and the age. Only problem is that right now we're only saving it and we're not actually getting that data back. So we have to save it and we have to actually get that data back. So once we save it, we just want to, we want to make sure that you add this person to the people, right? So let's go ahead and do that real quick. People dot append person, right? We're going to add that person into the people array. And this is a closure, so we have to say self. And then we also want to update our table view. Reload data. Now, this will work for right now, but I'm gonna show you. Right now we're not getting that, we're not grabbing the data that we save. So we're saving it, but we're not doing anything. And you know what? Before we get into all that, let's just go back to the save context. Make sure that we're going to jump over to, this is here in the persistent service, right? The save context. If we get past this try context.save, we're just going to say print saved. Saved. Bam. Okay, so let's run that again. because we just want to make sure that it was saved successfully, because for whatever reason it might not save properly. Okay. So my name is Kyle. My age is 25. Oh, let me show you guys the keyboard, make sure that you guys can see that. So, see? Text, number pad, bam. Okay. So, bam, see how it's saved? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go back into the simulator. And it said saved right there, right? So let's make sure that you guys can see that stuff too. So I'm going to go back into the simulator. Let's see if I go into save data. See, it's not there. It's not there. So we actually have to fetch that data and populate the people array and then reload the data so that we can get it. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do that on the view did load. Alright, so in order to do that, we're going to actually have to import core data right here. Import core data. And now what we can do is we have to create a ns fetched fetched object request. Let's see what it's called. NS fetch request. That's what it's called. So we'll do let fetch request be of type, and you have to do this piece, or you have to cast it as what I'm about to write here. So NS fetch request, and then you have to specify what type of object that you're going to be passing into it. So we're going to be passing in a person, right? So the return type of this fetch request will be an array of persons, right? People, essentially. So what we want to do is we actually want to do person. Let me show you guys this. Make sure that you see it. Notice that in our extension for the person right here in the properties, that there is this function that we say just fetch request, and it returns our NS fetch request for this person. So that's all we really have to do. It just makes it a little bit easier. If you didn't have this in there for whatever reason, all you had to do is just pretty much do this. Simple as that. You have to just type in the name of your entity or your of your class right there. And that's all it's really doing. It's just making it look a little bit prettier. So isn't that nice? It's pretty nice. So fetch request. Right? Pretty simple, pretty easy, pretty straightforward, at least if you ask me. So now what we have to do is we have to actually use that fetch request. So we'll do persistent service dot context, and then what we're going to do with our context is we're going to fetch from this context, right? So all we have to do is we have to fetch right here. Use this one. Yeah. Anyway, use this one, and then it says throws. So just keep in mind that you do have to wrap this in a do catch try block, whatever you call it, do block, do catch block, do catch try block, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to patch this in our fetch request. So in order to try this, we're going to do bam, and then we have to catch anything. And you know Kyle does not handle his errors in his tutorials. So error handling is up to you guys. It's up to you. So this is going to return an array of stuff. And since our fetch request says we want person, we're passing in a fetch request that is for a person. We want our array of people. So let people equal persistent service dot context dot fetch. Oh, you have to mark it as try, right? So you try this. If it works, yeah. So you try this, and if it works, then we can proceed. And now we have an array. If it'll show us, we have an array of persons. See, bam. Now we just pretty much do self dot people is equal to people. Simple as that. Actually, these need to be indented. It was correct, I was wrong. Okay, so when we do this, we're just going to we're going to use a fetch request, and we're saying, hey, we want persons to come back. So we say we're going to pass in that fetch request that says we want persons into here. We're going to go into our context. Bam, I want persons. Bloop, grabs it, goes deeper, grabs it, gives it back to you. Okay, hope that makes sense. So once we have those people, we have to obviously update our table view so that it reflects in the UI. Table view dot reload data. So let's go ahead and run this and let's see what happens. If everything works as I think it will, nope, failed to acquire termination assertion while installing. Okay, something's going on. That's what happens when you work with betas. All right, if everything works, then we should see our array populate with Kyle. Bam! Look at that. It works just as we expected it to. So what we'll do is we'll say, Bill, and Bill, he's 42. It's just how it is, Bill. And we added him, right? Then we have Nancy. Nancy, she is 38. There you go, Nancy. And then some dude is like 100 years old. He's like 100. That's just how it is. Okay, so we have been saving and we have been populating. Now let's just make sure. What we'll do is we'll hit the stop button. We want to make sure that everything's working as we expect it. So if I go back into here, it should just populate everything as it was. It is. That's great. Okay, let's make sure, right, that it's not just running in the background and everything's working as we wouldn't expect it. That's from earlier. Don't look at that, guys. Don't look at that. Okay, so saving data. That's our project, right? We're gonna open it up, and then if everything works as expected, it should still be there. Bam! It's still there. Okay, so that's how you persist to a device or save to a device. One thing that you do need to keep in mind is that once this device is deleted, that data is deleted with it. So we're going to click, hold, delete this app. Bam. We're going to reinstall this app. Now this will reinstall it from a fresh start, which means that there will be no data saved to the device, and you'll notice that completely empty. Now if whoa, didn't mean to do that. Okay, you'll notice that if I do the menu button and then I close it from the background just so that you guys can make sure that it didn't do anything funky. Okay, I'm sorry. It's doing all kinds of funky stuff right now. Anyway, okay, we closed it, right? Just so that I can verify this to you. We go back into save data. There's nothing there. Now we can start saving again. That's no problem. Kyle, Lee, bam, and that guy is 25. All right. So now Kyle's in here, right? Close it. We make sure that we close it and prove it to you. And we go back. All right. See, it's still there. But if you delete it, then once again, it will delete that data and it will no longer be stored on the device. So that's how you save using core data. This is like as simple as you can do some saving with core data. With just this little, look at this is really the code right here, right? 3 lines of code, what, 4 lines of code? Bam, that's all you really need to do to save. This is all you really need to do to get what you saved. And then all we really did over here was just steal the app delegate. We replaced this with persistent service. Make sure you save when it terminates or whatever. But all we did was we took the app delegate. We made these static a static property and made it a static method. And then we just added our own little static property so that we can get the contacts easier. And that's it. Really simple, guys. Core data does get very deep, but that's all I wanted to go over today. If you guys have any questions, make sure you leave your question in the comment, tweet me on Twitter, or if you're in the Applied Swift Slack team, then go ahead and feel free to reach out to me on there as well. Yeah, I'm always looking for whatever it is that you guys are interested in. I will add it to my Trello board and try to get around to it whenever I can. But yeah, that's core data for you guys. Make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you keep coding passionately. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say to you. Yeah. All right. Have a great rest of the day, guys. And yeah, like I said, code passionately.